All right, welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, taping this early on a Wednesday morning. I am excited to be joined by Clay Helton, the new head football coach at Georgia Southern, a school that I am quite familiar with. Seen a lot of games on. We already had one Georgia Southern coach on earlier last week, Jeff Monken, who was there for a number of years. Very different offense. I'm going to guess Clay's going to be running down in Statesboro this year. But Clay, good morning. How are you doing?
Doing great, Chase. Appreciate you having me, buddy.
Thank you for being here. What drew you most to the Georgia Southern job right out of the gate?
Well, in investigating it, I think number one was just the alignment of its leadership. Dr. Paul Marrero right now as president, with Jared Benko as the AD. There was an alignment and a vision of not being a regional product, but being a national product and being a national story. As the strength of our conference grows by the day, we want to grow as a university. And there's no reason that this university and this football team can't be the national story with a recruiting base, which really stood out to me in the state of Georgia, as you know, very strong in the Southeast as well as nationally. But also, I was really happy with the tradition of excellence that was here. It was a proven product, 6-time national champions. It was with a really strong alumni base and fan system. So to be able to walk out here, I got to be here for the 11th game of the year. It was a win football team. They were playing BYU at home here, and there's not one empty seat. So the expectations, the standards, the passion towards this university is special. So those are all things that, as I was investigating the opportunity, I said, wow, what a special place this is. I knew it growing up in the Southeast, but now getting to see it firsthand, you realize, man, this could be a really, really special situation.
The Sun Belt's just going to be fun. I'm so excited about the decisions and the direction the Sun Belt's going in. It's called the Fun Belt for a reason. Is there one game you already have circled where you're like, I'm really excited to see what we look like against this particular team? Is it Coastal? Who is it?
Yeah, so Chase, I mean, as you look at it and you look across the board, the league is so dang competitive.
Yes,
already. I mean, you look over the past years, there's been 2 to 3 top 25 teams coming out of this league. I think the presidents and Commissioner Gill have done an unbelievable job of being proactive and really strengthening this league. While everybody else was dividing apart, this league's collecting Marshall. Other Miss, James Madison, who's a championship football
a bunch
team.
of FCS powerhouses from back in the day,
and ODU. And so you look at this league has continued to grow and continued to get stronger. And I think one of the things that's going to be really important for us as a football team, because of coming off a 3-win season, is really building confidence. And so when you say, hey, is there a particular game that is ultra important? I know this is coaching cliche, but it's really the next one. We're really going to take an approach of, man, trying to go as hard as we can to go 1-0 each and every week, and really pouring our whole focus on the next opponent. Because this league, if you lose focus or you just have a semi okay day, you're going to get your butt beat. There ain't no question in your mind. So you have to approach every game like it's kind of like a playoff game, like a championship game, because anybody in this league, because of its competitiveness, can get you. Now, are there great rivalry games? Heck yeah. You talk about how special a Georgia Southern App State game is, or a Georgia Southern Georgia State game. How we play Louisiana Lafayette on a Thursday night, later in the season. How special is that going to be? So there are particular moments that stand out. But I think when you're trying to be a successful football team, you better concentrate on the opponent that's weak, and your whole energy and your whole focus better be on that opponent.
I'm glad that game's going to be on Thursday, because I think it was Marshall App State on a Thursday last year that had this crazy back and forth. And it was one of my favorite games because I love the Sun Belt and I love Maction. Like I make sure to watch that each week. And there's another conversation about being nervous about losing that in the coming years, because that's just so important. And I very much enjoy it. And I think a lot of college football fans are on the same page there. And Georgia Southern, it's just I grew up with a program that had high expectations, and you go to a game and it was a whole deal. Like Irk Russell started this decades ago, but it's kind of evolved, and it's been interesting to see all the different directions that Georgia Southern's tried to go, where you've had a lot of triple option, obviously, with Paul Johnson and Monk, and then you've had Willie Fritz, who did a great job, and you kind of see where like the fan base kind of has an idea for the coaching staff on what they would like to see on the field. What I've noticed, which is unique, not even Tennessee fans have some idea of like what they would prefer. They just want to win. Have you already felt that a little bit in the community where you're like, they're so curious to know what kind of offense you're going to be running on Saturdays?
Yeah, it's something that's going to be different, and I think about this in spring as well as our spring football game. It's going to be a more balanced offense. Georgia Southern, ultra successful. I mean, you talk about the tradition of excellence at the FCS level. It's maybe second to none. Under Coach Russell and Paul Johnson and Jeff Monken, as you talked about. This has been extremely successful. But as we transition to FBS and want to be not only the national story when we were in FCS level, now we want to be the national story when in the FBS. And to do that, we really felt like we needed a change of offensive system to attract quarterbacks, to attract wide receivers, to attract premier running backs, to show that balanced pro-style offense that can really all positions flourish. To become that national story, we felt that we had to be able to do that. And, you know, to my pleasant surprise in coming here, I was really excited. Actually, I had 5 or 6 guys that were really talented guys. Just the system didn't show their major contributions. And now having changed system with Brian Ellis, who came from Western Kentucky, which was one of the premier passing offenses in the country, to get a Richard Owens from UAB as our running game coordinator, who their success in the running game.
Yeah.
Combine those two together and see their leadership has been really, really special to watch, and our kids are having a ball in it. And as the kids gain confidence and swagger within that offense, that's when usually good things happen, points and wins happen. So my bet and my hope is even though the system is changing, I've never seen fans or alumni not like wins and points. So
that's true.
We produce both of those, and they see a very exciting offense that they come out on Saturdays and go, man, I love watching this football team.
Do you think the portal has helped a lot in that regard, where you can kind of flip an offense and you feel better about changing things over from a relatively quick standpoint, where you can just, okay, we have the pieces. I'm not having to start from scratch with a new offense that, you have this new identity and you want to be more balanced. And you also know that you can turn over this roster a lot to make sure that it's not as painful as it may have been in years prior when you're making such a vast change, right?
Yeah, Chase, it's a great topic of discussion. I think it's such a fine line right now in our positions as head coaches on which direction you go. I've never wanted to sacrifice development. When you look at this 33 players that are coming in, basically 1/3 of our roster turning over, you see a lot of freshmen within that. And 19, I think, of the 22 freshmen are right from the state of Georgia, right in our recruiting home base. In our home. But one thing that I learned from being out on the West Coast, I had a great opportunity to watch Les Snead, who I think is one of the general managers in the game right now in the NFL. And you remember a couple of years ago, all of a sudden the Rams come to LA. They're an immediate playoff team. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And Les makes a couple changes and brings in 3 guys, Adama Sue, Marcus and Talib, if you remember that. And all of a sudden they're a Super Bowl team.
Yep.
And he chose key members that he thought could make an immediate impact to help that next team. You look at how many guys have the courage to trade a guy, in Jared Goff, who's ultra talented, led to a Super Bowl, for Matthew Stafford. To try to put them in a better position for their specific team for that year. So in that approach, I think that's we are going to be a developmental football team with 90% of our kids being freshmen. But that percent, being able to bring in a Kyle Van Treese from Buffalo that's been ultra successful there, 23-year-old man that has been a 3-year starter, to be able to, in a new system, is really helpful. Jeremy Singleton, was a major contributor at the University of Houston last year at wide receiver, coming in and help us. There's some guys that are going to be in key positions as portal that we're plugging in to be able to help us for this year. So that's going to be our decision. I know some teams are just complete transfer teams. Some teams are just completely freshmen. We're a little bit of a mix.
It seems like we're getting to the point where people, like, there's now more data. So kids have more data to look at. Coaches have more data to look at. You just saw this in college basketball where you can now show what your minutes are going to look like going from mid-major to high major or high major to low major. And just there's things that you can now show kids, and coaches now have a better feel for how to go about the roster. And it seems like the more successful programs like yourself and coaches who really get it are going to fill out around the edges, where it's like we'll fill out where we need to, but we're not just going to add for the sake of adding, because ultimately it's not fair to the kid. It's not fair to the kid to bring him in if you don't have anything for him and you don't think he's a good fit. It's just not good for him.
Yeah, I always tell guys, especially young people and their families, our job as coaches, as recruiters, is to show genuality, be genuine, paint a clear and transparent picture of exactly who you are, what the system is, what you're about, what your culture is. And then it's the players and the parents' responsibility to see if that's a fit. And I always tell guys, if it's a fit, man, we hope you come. And if it's not a fit, don't come.
Right.
Find your right fit. We celebrate finding a player that is the right fit for us and the right fit for them. As we're evaluating a player, they're evaluating us, and hopefully both are fits for each other. I think that's even more important as what we're talking about, the transfer portal. The young men that decide to make a change, they get one time, and they've got to be right. So being able to do that research, being able to have those resources now, not only from the player, but even the coaches now. This is my 27th year of coaching, and to be able to have you click on PFF right now and say, hey, I want to watch every one of Jeremy Singleton's targets. You didn't have that resource.
Yeah.
27 years ago. So the resources that are out there, not only for the players and the coaches, I think have helped us as a sport. In football, to be able to make decisions whether we take a young man and whether that young man is a good fit. And I think it's also helped the recruits.
What do you think will be the biggest thing that you take away from USC that will best prepare you to win and be successful at Georgia Southern?
Yeah, I loved being at USC, the standards and the expectations. When you walk into a place that's won 11 national championships, you know what the standard is, and the competitor in you welcomes it. Now you walk into Georgia Southern, 6 national championships, ultra successful, a fan base that expects to win. That's what you want as a coach, and that was a weekly responsibility. And the standard. People tell me, Coach, you went under some different ADs. You were with Mike Bone, who's a really, really talented individual and a great AD. And we went 9-3 together, but we didn't win a championship. We lost a Pac-12 championship game. That's big time football. That's the standard and the expectations that's demanded at this level. I love that. If you don't like it, don't sit in this chair.
Right.
Because that's it. So I think, that day-to-day standard of what was expected at USC is exactly what is expected here at Georgia Southern. And I welcome that. That tradition of excellence that's unparalleled is that you have to live up to day to day is what makes the job fun.
What's been the biggest change you've made as a coach over the last decade? What have you found yourself where you've changed? Is it personality that you've evolved, or what do you think is the biggest thing that when you look back at what kind of coach you were a decade ago that's different now?
Yeah, one of the things as you become an experienced coach, you realize it's your responsibility to see how each player learns. I don't ever think you can coach every guy the same. I didn't coach Juju Smith-Schuster the same as I coached Robert Woods or the same as Michael Pittman. They all have triggers. They all learn in different ways. Some guys are rep guys that need to physically do it. Some guys are playbook guys. Robert Woods was a playbook guy. You put the book in front of him, he would know each and every position. The reasons he's ultra successful in the NFL. But one of the things that you learn is each guy. Some guys like to be pushed, and some guys, kind of retreat when they're pushed, and you have to find a way. I think that's the biggest thing, is to develop a trust and relationship as a coach with a player, that when they know that you're coaching them hard or you're telling them something, they know that it's for their best interest. And you have to be able to put it in a way that they understand, they take to heart, and they accept that coaching. And some guys, and I think you have to learn, and that takes time. And the greatest gift you can give somebody as a coach is your time, is the time to learn them and learn how you can help them to be the best that they can be.
When you had a little bit of a football break, Coach, did you get a lot of books in that you hadn't had time to get into? Did you go fishing a lot? What did you do during your time where you did not have to think about football all the time?
Well, I tell you what, one of the new things that's happened for us in college football is summer access, is availability to be with our football team during the summer. And being a new staff, we did this in spring. We took every opportunity to be at spring workouts or workouts leading up to spring football. We used the time that was given to us by the NCAA for meetings and working with kids one-on-one. And we're now given that same opportunity this summer. That's a large part of your summer. But we each coach, we get fresh. We take a week and go re-recruit Mama and the kids, make sure they're side dog for another year of football season. But it's really this new opportunity to be with your kids. It's great to be out with them this morning and watch them prepare for a training camp, and be able to, get ahead with playbook wise, and be able to have a little meeting time with them, and get ready for 17 newcomers that came in June, and prepare them where they're not learning in training camp, but they're competing in training camp, because they know the system. So it's been a little bit different, twofold, a little bit personal, being able to have that little bit of family time, but also the investment of what it takes to be a championship football team and preparing your team.
Little bit different heat in the morning, right? In Southern California, in Statesboro, Georgia, a little bit different, Coach?
Absolutely, dude. You have to love heat when you're in Statesboro, Georgia. There's a heat community that's special, and you become best friend with the Nats here. So
you don't have to tell me. I hope you got a good car wash. You just need to let them know Clay Helton's driving through every day, because the Nats are coming, and you're just like, "Where? I didn't even drive that far today. Why do I have Nats all over my car?" We'll end on this. Savannah Bananas. It's a big deal. Savannah's not far from you, Coach. Have you been able to secure a ticket to go see a Savannah Banana game? This is something I need to see, and I feel like you would love if you have not already done.
I tell you what, I need to do it. I have not done it yet, Chase. I need to do it. I tell you what, Savannah is so important for us as a university. One, because it's our secondary. We have a university right there in Savannah, and with a population of about 6,000 students right there. And so, that community has been so good to us, and there's so much alumni there. I need to get my butt over there and check out a Savannah Banana game.
It's a tough ticket. Coach Monken has a place in Savannah. He couldn't get there all weekend. They're not letting any college football coaches in there. There's no special treatment. You got to book it early in advance.
Yeah, I need to get over there and be a part of it. But have enjoyed my time in Savannah. The few times my wife just moved into town, and got to show her the opportunity of going over there. It's a great city, great community, great people, and a bunch of Eagles over there. A bunch of Georgia Southern Eagles that I hope take that 40-minute drive and come sit in Paulson Stadium.
I think they're going to do it, Coach. I think they're going to do it. It's an exciting time to be a Georgia Southern Eagle. I appreciate you making the time this morning. It was a lot of fun talking with you today, Coach. I wish you nothing but success down there in Statesboro. Georgia Southern football being good is good for the health of college football. So I am very, very excited to see what you and your staff put together this fall, and I'll be watching.
Thanks, Chase. Really appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for having me on, and hail Southern.
There you go.